Hey, and welcome to the last of our division sleeper slash futures uh, NHL fantasy slash DFS. We're going into the East, probably the deepest division in terms of win now teams. A lot of monsters in here. This one's going to be a battle. When this one gets to playoffs, oh man, this will be a good. This and the Canadian division are my two favorite. Lots to work on here, but we'll just jump right into it. We're going to go with Washington first. Older core, which you're going to find a lot with a lot of these teams in the East, and they're all in win now mode, it seems like. Um, but this division, yeah, it'll be fun to watch. First one, I'm not really going off the board here, but I'm going for Tom Wilson. If you're playing in like a league that counts everything, he is just an absolute monster. Hits, fights, puts up points, gets penalties for you. Great player that will get you 6 fantasy points per game. Great DFS player. If you got the caps, he just gets you points everywhere you need them, and he's always playing on line 1 or 2, swapping in and out of there. So I really like Tom Wilson. Next one here is a bit of a new pick just because of some news. I'm going with Ilia Samsonov, their goalie. We see that Lundqvist is now going to be out for the year, which is unfortunate. But the Caps will have to, rely on him to be their sole number one starter right now. He might even be able to, maybe I think Phoenix Copley is their backup. I'm not 100% sure, but I think at the beginning, anyways, we're going to see them, they're going to just play them, see what they got. He did play great last year and did steal some games from Holtby. So I think they're going to be, comfortable with him, but they're not going to, go all in on him yet. So I think if you're playing the tandem style with your goalies here, this is just an excellent pickup. What are you thinking for Washington here, Tarin?
I went to a forward as well, but the line two guy, he was one of my favorite plays in DFS. Jacob Verana, he shoots the puck a ton. I remember playing him in DFS. He almost always gets that 5 shot bonus, and just love guys that do that. So if your league runs on shots and fantasy too, great option. He had one of his best seasons. He had 52 points in 69 games last year. He plays on O-line too, and he also plays a lot of good power play minutes. He is another guy on the half wall there. He shoots the puck more than he's standing out front. So he's one of those options when you're seeing power play guys that are going to score. He's one of those guys. He's shooting the puck a lot, and he gets a lot of that fourth forward time on that top power play sometimes. So look to him. Great option in line two. He's not going to be drafted early. Kind of mid-late rounds if you're looking for a guy that can kind of provide that 59 point or 60 point potential for a season. I mean, this is a shortened season, so that might be extreme. But yeah, overall, he's my favorite play here.
Perfect. Move on to Philadelphia Flyers here. I picked a lot of goalies, but Carter Hart, absolute stud. They're clear number one. 22 years old. If you're playing in a salaried league, I think he's still in his ELC for one more year. But 5.5 points per game, great DFS pick. And when Philly's hot. Like they just go on wild streaks. So they got a good core too. It's a good mixture of old and young. So if you're looking for someone who's going to play majority of the year, Carter Hart. Next one's a little bit more of a gamble. Nolan Patrick missed the entire year last year with some head injuries. Read some news that he's been skating with no symptoms, and he should be back this year. I think in casual leagues, he'll probably won't even get drafted. So someone you could probably take at relatively low risk that you could drop if he gets injured right away, but just a higher upside. In keeper leagues too, his value is probably at maybe still a little bit high because he was a first round pick, but some people might not be willing to be as patient. I would just be willing to risk it in redraft leagues to take him, at the end, the last few rounds, if he's available, as just a low risk option. What are you thinking for Philly here, Tarin?
Well, my note was Nolan Patrick. I mean, it could be boom, could be bust, could not even play. So there's a lot of mixed reviews of him. I was going to ask you just because this is another guy I really liked in Philly before the unfortunate circumstance happened to him. Oscar Lindblom. What's his plan moving into this season?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not really from. I obviously I know who he is, and he's a young good player, but don't really know much about him.
He was awesome. I had him on my team. Was it last season, the season before? Really great option in this offense. Played great minutes on line two, and that line two is one of my favorite lines on Philly. with Hayes. It was Lawton and Konechny. So I think he used to fill in on that one winger role there, and I think he's an awesome play if he is playing. I just don't know the news. But, yeah, he did play a game in the playoffs there, or at least skated in the warmups. But coming back off of the unfortunate cancer he got, but it sounds like he's cleared, and hopefully he can get back in because he was having kind of a great season there in his first couple. So hopefully he can bounce back on that.
Yeah, we'll move on to Boston here. I don't really like talking about Boston as a Leafs fan, so they kind of they're another one in win now mode. Got one pick here, Charlie McAvoy. I mean, Torrey Krug's gone now. Zdeno Chara's getting pretty darn old. I don't know how he's still playing. I mean, this is their number one D-man. He's going to take on the bulk of everything probably. He's already putting up 32 points last year. Fantasy leagues and DFS, 4.2 fantasy points per game. Block shots, take shots, plays everything. I think if you get him, it'll be a great, pick that will probably take another stride this year and only get better.
Yeah, that was the exact same pick I had, Justy. I don't know if you have more depth there, but the another option on D is Grzelcyk.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of the talk of every sports site right now to be the dominant takeover PP1 guy, because McAvoy is not typically your PP guy. He's more of the PK and plays big minutes every game. So Grzelcyk did fill in for Krug when Krug was out last season. So a lot of the talk is that Grzelcyk's going to take this, or Grzelcyk, or however you say that name as well, is going to take over that PP1 role. But I don't. That would be the only other pick.
I hope so, because I have him in a few of my keeper leagues, and he only puts up, 2.5, 2.6 fantasy points a game. Doesn't make a lot of money though, so it's a good depth piece. So if he gets better, great. If not, I'd still keep him anyways because he does get a lot of power play time. But yeah, we'll move on to the Rangers here. My first pick, well, first and foremost, if similar to Barkov getting him outside the top 10, you can get Mika Zibanejad. Oh man, he's just been playing lights out last year. But I'm going with Capo Caco just because I think of all the eyes now on Alexis Lafreniere. Capo Caco was what, second overall pick that came in. He had a decent year. 23 points, 2.4 fantasy points per game, so nothing crazy. But I think just now that the spotlight will be on Lafreniere, he could really get comfortable, hopefully, and maybe only take that next stride to get to, 40 points this year. But that's who I'd be banking on if he's available in your later rounds. Next pick, too, I don't really know why I'm taking him and why I like him that much. I just think there's a lot of upside here, and that's Phillip Heatle. Again, another center. Don't know why I like him, but I just feel like he's a good young player and slots in nicely. And I just think the Rangers are going to be good. So, I could be wrong, but I feel like they have one of those quick rebuilds and they just got so many options, and this is one of them.
Yeah. I had Capo Caco as well because it was the same logic. I wanted to get away from Lafreniere. And but one to add is this defense is actually quite a high shot defense. So look to Adam Fox,
Yeah.
and then Brady Skjei, Shea, and also D'Angelo. All three of these guys really good high shot plays on D. This defense is more offensive, I find, than defensive because Trouba is still there. I think he fills that role. And but look to whoever's going to get on the power play or slot time on either power play. Those two D men are also sometimes good depth.
One other thing to touch on is both these goalies, and Georgiev and Shesterkin, are both great. They'll probably do tandem. I know Shesterkin started getting a lot more of the time, but there was a lot of interest in a lot of teams wanting one of these two goalies as a starter even. Now that Hank's gone, not sure if they're planning on just keeping the two because they're both really good and they're both still on ELCs. But keeper leagues, I wouldn't mind having one of these two. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them gets ditched and, they become a bona fide starter elsewhere. So just keep an eye on that. We'll move on down the road to the Islanders. Another team I'm not a big fan of. Don't really know much about them. I'm just glad they finally got Tavares out of there. But I would take the only bona fide player I like on this lineup is Barzal. If you're playing in this like a keeper league, it'll be interesting with salaries. It'll be interesting to see what he signs for. Especially after all the Tavares stuff. but back-to-back 60-point seasons. I think he had 85 or something 3 ago, which is wild, but that was with Johnny T. I mean, I just think he's an elite player. Got to have him if you can. I think he's their best player. So, other than that, another good maybe pick to watch out for would be this is my Leaf bias coming out. Dimitro Timoshov. He actually made it into the Leafs bottom 6 there for 30 games or so, and then he got traded to Detroit. Played there briefly, and then now he's on the Islanders. So Lou Lamoriello is familiar with them, so wouldn't be surprised if he picks up a bottom 6 role and good depth option.
Yeah, I think that the one thing to watch at the Islanders is the Islanders are a defense first team. Again, we got a team that typically isn't high scoring. Fantasy values are usually pretty low. I mean, the guy that scores the most is typically Anthony Beauvillier. He had the best season out of anybody, and he tends to score a lot of the power play goals too. But I didn't go there. I actually leaned on your goalie kind of idea, and with Ilia Samsonov. He's going to be playing that second. I think he might even be the top goalie here behind, I guess, who is it now? Varlamov. So he's a high ceiling for a rookie. All the early reports say that, after this year, he's going to be on a timeshare, but he might become like a top 10 goalie in the league. I think they said him, Shesterkin, and Samsonov might become like the new, goalies of the NHL. They're all like awesome in their own right in the NHL and were great in all the leagues they played in. This guy led in the KHL for shutouts. I think he had almost 20 shutouts or something in the KHL last season. But yeah, Ilia Sorokin, good depth at the goalie position here.
Perfect. We'll move on to Buffalo. I'm big on Victor Olofsson here. Kind of came out of nowhere for me, but big maybe for a lot of people too. But great rookie season until he got hurt. I had him in a few of my leagues and had to drop him in the redraft ones just because he was out. But 42 points, 4 fantasy points per game. He'll probably be playing on that top line with Eichel and Hall. And that's just going to be a monstrous line. So, I mean, I think he's a can't miss. Next one here, Dylan Cousins. I'm not really sure if he'll make the team, but he looks great at the World Juniors. Great pickup by Buffalo. They're just looking, as another great team with a lot of prospects. It'll be interesting to see how this year pans out for them because they kind of, they need to do something before they start making their talent mad. A few players to fade maybe. Jeff Skinner didn't have a great season. He makes, I think, $9 million a year or something. If you're playing in a keeper league, that just gotta hurt. Probably might have to hold on to him and hope he has a bounce back year to trade him. But that's who I'd be avoiding. And then another player to just be, if you can get him, great. Elite player, Rasmus Daleen. Don't even need to say much about him. He's in that group of young defensemen who are going to be, the faces of tomorrow with Heiskin and Makar and Hughes. What do you got for Buffalo?
I kind of just went to a couple prospects. This is my dad's favorite team, actually, but I should know more about them, but I don't. I maybe should have consulted with him on who we should watch. But I just wrote down Jack Quinn and Dylan Cousins, both prospects coming up. I think both playing in the juniors right now. And if all the early reports say they're likely not NHL ready, Cousins is more likely to be NHL ready out of the two, but it most likely looks like they're going to probably go into the AHL for this season. But, keeper dynasty kind of look, bank on talent with teams that are looking to be good in the next few seasons, because they're going to have to fill those roles of like the Skinners and all their high priced guys. That top line in Buffalo is going to be something. And Buffalo is a great fantasy option almost every year. Their top line is with Eichel. Eichel probably is going to have one of the best seasons. Might be, verging up to the top 5 in scoring based on this line he's going to have with him, because he's been great without much talent around him, and this can only make him better. So,
okay, we'll move on to your favorite team here, New Jersey.
Yeah.
My first pick here, Nikita Gusev. I think he's pretty popular last year. There's a lot of hype around him to come in and do his thing from the KHL. Put up 44 points in 66 games last year. Again, I think there's just a lot of young talent on this team. He's 28, I think. So I think he'll probably be missed in a lot of casual leagues where you'll probably be able to get him later. And he might, 44 points last year in his first year. If he can get 50 for you, I mean, great. I like his upside here. Another one, going back to my bias, Andreas Janssen coming in. from the Leafs. He played in the Leafs, rotated between lines 2 and 3. Again, I'm not really sure where he fits in on New Jersey. That's more of a question for you. But I think he's a cheap fantasy player who tends to be pretty consistent at, 30 points a year. So.
Yeah, for the amount I am a New Jersey fan, my first pick was Gusev. There was kind of two bright spots in all of the Devils organization last year, and that was Gusev and Palmieri. Only two guys that put up any really good fantasy output. They lost Vatanen now, so I don't know where that defense core is going to move to. One bright spot, I guess, in addition to those two forwards, was Mackenzie Blackwood. Really good goaltending last year. Great saves, or great goals against average for kind of filling that role with Schneider who was out for a lot of it, injured. So I think that's a good option. Look for the year for Jack Hughes too. This is kind of his year now. He had a pretty down year, but I mean, when you look at the Devils, there's not a ton of, they're not a win now team in this division. This is a team that's probably looking to just, chalk out a decent season and then move to picking some more draft picks throughout. So Jack Hughes usually centers that top line. Nico Shire, again, another great they've drafted all these guys in the last about 3 seasons because they've been bottom dwelling, but all these guys are looking to kind of build up and have that potentially big breakout season. Shire was hurt a big portion of last season, so another good option. And then I think, look to Palmieri too. The funny part about the Devils is that in your drafts, you're probably going to see like maybe one of them go in the first 6 rounds. Like there's not a lot of talent here that everybody's like drawn to take, especially early in a draft. So when you can get top line guys or top 2 line guys that are just going to see ice time, look to Palmieri as the kind of top forward scoring wise in this offense. So, I mean, there's no real non-sleeper on this entire team because there's no real like standout stars throughout. So.
Well, going to be another tough year for the Devils. And we'll move on to our last one here, Pittsburgh Penguins. Jake Gensel, that's who I like. I mean, we have Crosby and Malkin. They're in win now mode. We really saw Brian Rust have a great season last year too. But I just think Gensel, another elite player, put up a wild amount of points before he got hurt last year, season-ending injury, which was unfortunate. But I would be banking on him to have another great season, 6 fantasy points per game. We'll be playing on that top line. And then my second pick here, going to Kasperi Kapanen. I mean,
so much Leaf bias.
I know. I just think if he's playing on that second line, will he be, have an amazing year, better than one in Toronto? Probably not. But if you're playing in the league where they count everything, he kills penalties, and boy, is he good at that. So he'll block your shots, he'll get you hits, takes penalties, puts up 30 points. I just think he's a solid, consistent player. He's playing third line role in Toronto. I think he gets the top 6 here, or at least the opportunity to. And so that's where I really like the upside of it. But yeah, what are you thinking here for Pittsburgh here?
Yeah, I think Kapanen's a great addition to add to the Malkin line. Personally, we saw that line kind of when Crosby was hurt become the number 1 line last season, and that was Malkin, Rust, and Gensel for a while, and they played awesome together. So I mean, adding a version of Gensel on that wing with Kapanen being a fast forward, kind of smaller guy, could be a great option on that second line to add to it and kind of add some depth for Pittsburgh. But I went to a D-man again. Seems to be my trend. And to close out for our divisions, I might as well use another D-man. But John Marino, kind of a guy like, he's coming off jaw surgery. Not sure whether he's going to play right away in the first game of the season. He's kind of rehabbing and they're expecting him to, but he was playing 20 plus minutes a game in this defense core. I mean, you have Letang, which is your obvious pick, but he had 26 points last season. He was kind of that secondary D-man that filled in and kind of took the minute role and block shots. And he's kind of a block shot guy, shoots a lot. And so I think he could be a top 4, top 2 D-man in this kind of, I don't know what Pittsburgh's going to be like this year, to be honest. It always, you have your 2 guys that, big names, but I just don't know what to expect.
I do also like Marcus Pettersson on the D core here too. Good player. Oiler fans got to be salty about John Marino, as they had him at one point, but he signed elsewhere. But yeah, if you like the hockey videos. We'll get more DFS specific towards the start of the year, but this is just our preseason content to get some stuff out there. So if you like it, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, the type of videos for hockey you'd like to see. And yeah, hopefully we get another, maybe not another, but hopefully we get a Leafs Cup. Bye.